Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley, or if you're seeing this on Patreon, hey, welcome. I just wanted to do a little intro video slash story time and share about me, because there's a lot to share. That's Lola. She's absolutely fine. She's just been meowing a lot. Anyway, so I don't know where to start. I guess we'll start in like my undergrad. I think that would be a good place. Um, so I have my bachelor's degree in communication, and that was my major, and my minor was in peace and justice. I went to a liberal arts Catholic college in my hometown, well, in De Pere, Wisconsin. I went to St. Norbert College, and I was in my last semester of my senior year in 2009 when I started receiving my spiritual gifts that looked terrifying to the people around me. I'm a huge stoner, always have been, always will be. Sorry, we're stoned. And everyone assumed that I was just like losing my mind, or in some sort of psychosis. It was not well, I mean, it was psychosis to a degree, but it was psychic abilities. And anyway, that landed me in. I had to withdraw. I got in a lot of legal trouble because I started Robin Hooding the apartment building that I lived in, because I was certain that I was going to be going to Uganda to work at a children's orphanage. That wasn't that far-fetched. A woman named Ruth Namboa from Another Hope Children's Ministries in Kampala, Uganda, had come to the college and shared about the orphanage. That's when I first learned about African paper beads and the way that they make paper beads. And anyway, I have some if you want to see them. I think they're in the other room. Anyway, I'll skip that for now. Anyway, so I started Robin Hooding. If you don't know what I mean by that, I started stealing from my neighbor's storage units, and was convinced that I would be taking all that stuff. I'm like, you guys aren't using it. It's in your storage unit. Anyway, I got caught, and that landed me in jail. And then things kind of escalated from there. And my family tried to take me into a mental health institution. It was the same one that they had locked me up in when I was about 14. And my cousin actually just told me, like, hey, weren't you, like, locked up at, like, 14? I was like, yeah. She was like, that was crazy. And so it's interesting to get that point of view. My mom read my journals and decided to, like, lock me up. Anyway, I'm no contact with my mom. I will go ahead and give that spoiler alert. These are the reasons why. Some of them. Okay, so anyway, back to 2009. So I had to go through the mental health system, court ordered, so I ended up in jail for 2.5 months, while in, like, active mania, psychosis. Again, at this point in my time, about, how long? How long has it been? I don't know, about 20 years? No, 2009. So about 17 years later. I have a totally different understanding of my gifts. I am a psychic medium. When that stuff first shows up, it's kind of crazy, but I wanted to share because that's one of the reasons I do the work I do. Because it's a very painful process, especially if you have people around you who have no fucking clue what's going on. If you're getting downloads, if your third eye is open, if you're channeling information, if you have any of the clair abilities, clairvoyance, claircognizance, sentience, any of those, I have most of them. I don't have the taste, and occasionally I get the clair smells. I don't know the word offhand. But I am claircognizant, clairvoyant, and clairsentient. That's like I can feel stuff. I'm an energy healer. I have a lot of different gifts. Numerology was one of the ones that came through in 2009, and that's what really freaked people out. I mean, additionally, like, to me, like, stealing and breaking into shit. Because I'm not good at math, but I can do numerology. Numbers are like a more universal, like, way of communicating, and I understand that now. I was using the Da Vinci. I have it right here. I was using the Da Vinci Tarot, which also like completely opened my third eye. Da Vinci was very, very smart. I'm an artist, but I really resonate with Da Vinci. This was the tarot deck that I had in this time of my life. I have since replaced it, but my family was scared shitless because I started taroting, channeling, doing numerology. My mind was crazy. Psychosis can look a lot different for everybody. Again, if you're open to, like I said, I smoke a lot of weed, and so now I understand my own limits. I understand, I know where I get my stuff. I take care of the things, but I've had enough bad situations to know how to navigate that, right? I don't want to stay on this too long because there's, 17 years of stuff to cover in my process through this to where I am now, okay? So again, I ended up in the mental institution, and for like a year. I was locked up for an entire year. So I got out in the spring of 2010, and I was on paper for about 6 months afterward, in which I had like court-appointed housing and stuff. And then I had to get my own place. And I found this really great couple that was renting out the top floor of a house that they had. And so I got in there. I learned a lot of lessons there. I worked at a call center doing claims adjusting for Blue Cross Blue Shield. Remember, I had not graduated with my bachelor's. I had to withdraw halfway through the last semester. Then I got a job at like JCPenney. I started working on Obama's re-election campaign. So that was like 2010, 2012 era. And then I was back in college. I joined college again to, I like went back to the same college. My mother was like, "Aren't you embarrassed?" I'm like, no one's here. Like, that was here, 3 years ago. And so anyway, it took me a year because I did it part-time while working at JCPenney and APAC, the call center. Sorry, that's my friend. I have a friend. We're talking about the Vatican, and it like fascinates me. So anyway, what am I talking about? Okay, 2000. Okay, I got out. Okay. So then I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I was having dreams, like nightmares about adjusting fucking medical claims. I'm like, I can't do this. And so I decided to go back into college, and I finished my undergrad, both the major and the minor, and then from there I took a chance on myself, and I had a friend who was in Prescott, Arizona, and he was in rehab. Opioids were really big in the Midwest. I think they still are. And they were really big in my town. A lot of my friends and ex-boyfriends and stuff ended up on heroin from like doing oxy and stuff. So anyway, he was in Prescott, and I was looking for a master's program. I was like, should I join the Peace Corps or do a master's program? And I decided to apply at Prescott College, mostly because there were two colleges at this time that, so 2013, because I started college in 2014, that offer human rights degrees, graduate degrees. One of them was Colorado. I think it was University of, I don't remember which school. It was one of the U's of either Colorado or Denver. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Or Prescott College. And the difference between the two was that you had to take an entrance exam to get into the one at Colorado. And you did not have to do that for Prescott, and so I chose Prescott. I'm not a test taker. I have ADHD, among other things. And at this time, I'm still medicated, right? I was on my treatment plan for my bipolar. That was what they finally diagnosed me with. While I was in jail, they tried medicating me on a whole bunch of stuff, like Haldol, Prolixin. So back in 2010, 29. Anyway, you know what I mean. And then in the mental institution, they put me on like Abilify. Is that what it's called? I don't know. The whole cocktail. My weight was fluctuating. My brain was gone. So when I applied for this master's program, I was very unsure of myself because I was like heavily medicated, and had been for a few years. And like every time I went to go see the psychiatrist, they changed my medication. I was a guinea pig. It was before big pharma was really like what it is now. And so, I went through that. When I started my master's program, I decided to, the very first semester, we were living in Tucson. Not only did I get into the master's program, but I was also awarded a scholarship to be a graduate teaching assistant. And like I said, up until that point, I mean, having to go through all of the academic stuff, having my family and my professors like be really unsure of me, and like, watching me like, oh, is she gonna freak out again? The pressure was very, I didn't have any self esteem. Like, I had no. There was one professor that was new at the college when I went back, and he is absolutely one of my favorite humans on the whole planet. Always will be, because he helped me get the fuck out of there, and he believed in me when no one else did. He wrote me one of my recommendation letters to get into the program. He answered all of my questions. He was such a good friend, still is. We talk every once in a while. But he like helped me get out. And I say this all the time, and this is another reason I do the things I do, is because it only takes one person to believe in you, and I want you to know that I believe in you. I don't need to know you. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to step into your power, to be who you are, to heal yourself, to follow your dreams. I believe in you. And I believe in you because a few people have believed in me. And it only takes a few people, not even a few. It takes one person to believe in us, to give us that push into really following what it is we want to do, right? So anyway, he helped me get into the program by writing me recommendation letters. So did my other professors that saw me go through everything in 2009, right? They wrote me recommendation letters too. And I got into the program, and then that first semester the Prescott College is in Prescott, Arizona, and it has a experiential education model, and that's how I teach my son. We homeschool through experience, through him following what he's passionate about, and me supporting lessons in that. That is our way of learning. My son is autistic, but he wasn't a part of this story until a few years ago. So let's keep going. That first semester, so we were traveling. We went to Los Angeles, where I met my son's dad for the first time, at an organization. So we went to, the master's program was in human justice, or social justice and human rights. And we stayed in this was like right when Michael Brown got killed in St. Louis. And there was a delegation of Black Lives Matter. It wasn't Black Lives Matter yet. Maybe, I think that's when the term started. But anyway, we stayed at Patrice's house, and Patrice was one of the three women who coined the term Black Lives Matter. And they had an organization in LA called Dignity and Power Now, her and her friend Mark Anthony. And it's still there. They're still involved in that. But we stayed at their house at a place called St. Elmo's Village, which was like a little like POC village, predominantly POC, a safe place for musicians and artists and art in all of its forms, activism and stuff like that. So we stayed there while we were in Los Angeles for the first few weeks. Then we moved to Tucson, and I did an internship. So we did an internship at LA Can, that when we were in Los Angeles that first few weeks. LA Can is the organization in Skid Row, Los Angeles, where I ended up doing my master's thesis work. And that's the organization that Baby Daddy works at, still there, General Dogon. He leads the Community Watch team, among other things, the Human Rights Committee. It's a grassroots organization. If you've never heard of LA Can, highly recommend. It stands for the Los Angeles Community Action Network. They serve as a checks and balance to the city and county and the shitty policies. And they support the homeless community of Skid Row and beyond. And so anyway, we did an internship there. Then when we moved to Tucson, and we lived in Tucson for that first semester. And our program was the last program that we got to do all of this moving and like living in different places. And I'm so glad I got to do that because we had internships in Tucson. I worked with the American Friends Service Committee. We traveled to Mexico. We went to Nogales. We participated in like vigils for people who had been killed by Border Patrol on the other side, on the Mexico side. We went to Agua Puerta, I think is how you say it. We went to a couple community organizations and ministries down there. For the research, I did a lot of research for, again, I'm still on my medication in this semester. But I chose to go off of it that semester, and I really chose to focus my master's program. I knew right away um, that I wanted to focus on mental health because it was something that meant a lot to me, right? I am absolutely destroying this little coil, by the way, while I talk. It's my sensory. Um, so with the American Friends Service Committee, I worked on like compiling information about like private prisons and corporate run prisons versus community, or not community, but like county run facilities. Everything from bail bonds to like payphone tolls and stuff. While we were in Tucson, we also went to Florence, Arizona, which is a town that has over 13 prisons or lockup facilities. It's in the middle of the fucking desert. And we did a little bit of work with the Florence Project over there, who help families of incarcerated people, especially those impacted by ICE. What else did we do that semester? I don't know. Then we moved back to Prescott, so we were in Prescott for the second semester. The first paper I wrote in my master's program was called Genocide in the Homeland, and it was about the border, and how it that was my first paper. The only paper I got a B on in my entire master's program, I had the highest GPA I've ever had. I think I graduated with a 3.8. But I got a B on one paper, and it was the paper I wrote for my decolonizing methodologies class where I had to conceptualize the idea of violence as I was still very non-violent in that time, not anymore. And so it was hard for me to conceptualize non-violence and like this idea of resistance as a viable option for a movement, right? I was still very peace hippie. And so that was the only the only paper I got a B on. Everything else I got an A on. And I remember that. Not because I was like shooting for a 4.0, but it was the paper that made a lot of sense for me to get that because but it shifted a lot in me, and it helped me, understand state-sanctioned violence. So I think one of the things I just want to touch on really quick, I know I'm yapping the fuck out of this, but of course it's going to be a little longer. I want you guys to know why I'm working from the foundation I'm working from. I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. I don't remember where I was going with that. I don't know. Then I was a GTA, not Grand Theft Auto, graduate teaching assistant. I did an orientation for freshmen, and we got to travel all across the state. That was very fun. There were 4 of us that facilitated that, and that got kind of messy, but it was still a good time. I don't remember what else I did. So I finally chose to go back to. When I was a GTA, we went to Los Angeles with the kids. We took them there, the freshmen. Well, they weren't really freshmen. They were like new students. But Prescott College is like open to everybody. Anyway, and when we were there, I had this like insane hit in the pit of my stomach / womb that like I needed to be at LA Can. I've never felt something like that. I've never felt like that since. I don't know if it was like phantom kicks from Nile or what. I don't know. It was fucking weird. But it just solidified in me that I wanted to do that. LA Can was starting some mental health like initiatives at that time, and so the county was too. The county was working on these SMART teams, which were it was like right after Africa had been killed. Africa was a man from Cameroon who got gunned down in Skid Row for having a mental health crisis, and Trishawn Carey got locked up in the midst of all of that. So Ellie Can was heading some campaigns to free Trishawn. She picked up one of the police batons while Africa was Charlie. His name was Africa, like his street name was Africa. While Africa was getting gunned down, but he got shot like 6 times in broad daylight, supposedly because of having a mental health crisis. And so that was when I decided to go there. And then from there, of course, there's a little bit of a love story because I met Niall's dad, of course. But before that, I was working on helping LA Can with research about the county, the sitting county members, their stance on the SMART team. So SMART stands for System-Wide Response to Mental Health Issues or something. And the SMART teams were LAPD and also like county sheriff, I think. There was some sort of law enforcement, or no, I think it was LAPD, but then the county aspect was, so it was like a marriage between the county, and it took me so long because Los Angeles City and Los Angeles County have the same name. And as someone who was not native to there, it was so difficult to like navigate all of the fucking bureaucratic bullshit. So anyway, we were doing research about that to try and get more of a communal response. After Dogon and I got married, I was still working with LA Can, and we were working on more like kind of making a marriage between the community watch program and mental health response, so that we, as the community, could respond and kind of give a buffer or help de-escalate mental health crises. So I did a lot of work with that, but because of our marriage, it became a space that it just wasn't for me. Dogon wasn't really cool with, sharing the space and, doing that. And then I also they locked me up. I got locked up in 2017 in Los Angeles. Baby daddy was cheating on me. I got gaslit to hell. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you are. Niall was not here yet. Niall didn't come until 2019. Yes, you are correct. I stayed. Anyway, so as we were doing this like mental health work, Dogon was cheating on me, lying to me, very inconsistent. We were married at that point. We got married in 2016. We eloped to Vegas because we're fucking crazy. And then, yeah, so the organization wasn't really a space for me. I got locked up and I got trafficked within the mental health system in Los Angeles from March of 2017 to August of 2017. And then when I got out, Dogon was trying to keep me on the medication that they had given me. I was all over Los Angeles. They were trying to disappear me. I had bruises and scratches all over my body. It was a whole fuck ton. There was a lot. But it all stemmed from emotional neglect and emotional abuse, and infidelity and lying, and it drove me fucking crazy. That man drove me fucking crazy, and then acted like, he threw the rock and hit his hand, right? It was insane. And then everyone took his side, like the flying monkeys. It was insane, right? I had built relationships. I've been at this organization doing research. It was such a hard time of my life. It was probably the hardest time. It was much harder than 2009, 2010. Because I didn't have family and friends. I didn't have home field advantage at this point. And, the person that you love, like, he took me to the hospital so many times. He left me shackled to a bed. He like took my purse and like walked out of the hospital room. And then he would like come to visit me and like bring me a bunch of stuff. Like that was, and actually after I got out of that situation in 2017, I obviously decided that LA Can was not the place for me. I'm not going to keep, going there. That's Dogon's spot, obviously. Like, I get it, right? Whatever. And so I started community resiliency, which was based on my thesis. My thesis is named Community Resiliency Organizing Through Action, I think is what it's called. Mental Health as Social Control. It's a huge title with a colon and everything. It's an academic paper. But anyway, I started, and you can see it. I have a playlist of it. Um, and yeah, it's also available on my Gumroad where I'm selling all my workbooks. We'll get there. That's where I'm at right now. Okay. So yeah, we are 2018. So 2017, 2018, I started Community Resiliency, and I found an organization called Share. I don't remember what that stands for, but it was in downtown Los Angeles. And I started leading mental health groups there. So we talked about community resiliency was a group about removing individual blame, right? It was a space, Share was a space that was mostly for AA programs or NA and, anonymous programs. It was a space for addicts. It was a space for people with mental health issues. But it was county funded, which has a lot of issues too, right? And so it was a nonprofit, but they had a lot of donors from the county, and so they had partnerships with like UCLA. So like they're treating folks in these groups. It's a space for meetings. And I started a new group because I don't agree with the AA format at all. It like blames people. I don't agree with that. So community resiliency was a total paradigm shift for a lot of the folks. And we approached it in more of a like understanding oppressive systems, and how we navigate these systems is why we have mental health issues, right? Is why we're homeless, is why we choose addiction or prostitution, or why we have to go to these means to survive, right? I mean, come on. And so I did that for a little bit, and then after that was doing well for a few months, I started a women's group. Because we needed more space for women, and so I started Women's Empowerment Los Angeles, WILA, at Share. And then I hooked up with a friend who had cancer, and she was in Skid Row. She worked at the Hippie Kitchen, which is a Catholic charities organization, and they're like kitty corner in Skid Row to LA Cam, and they do really great work. And they have really good coleslaw. They feed the community on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe. They also do like pedicures, like in the name of Jesus, like washing people's feet. It's really sweet. And they also handed out shopping carts to homeless folks, like legal shopping carts, which was very needed. I don't know if they still run those programs. I haven't been there in a long time. I guess it's probably. But anyway, if you're not familiar, Skid Row is the homeless capital of the nation. And about 60% of people who live in Skid Row have some sort, I mean, that's an old statistic, have some sort of mental health issue, whether it's addiction or some sort of, diagnosis. So it was a great place for me to do my research and implement my theory about how the mental health system is meant to control people, because you've got Skid Row that exists only miles away from Bel Air and Beverly Hills, and it's disgusting. And even Hollywood itself, Hollywood, like glitz and glam. Hollywood is totally huge homeless population, huge problems too, right? Like it's not what Hollywood Boulevard appears to be at all, right? Hollywood has a lot of depth and gross shit happening. Okay. So anyway, where are we? 2018 or so. So I did community resiliency and WILA. Oh, and then we started the cancer jam. But then she passed away, like right after we got the group started. So I kept doing it until I found out I was pregnant. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I quit everything. And I started really focusing on my pregnancy. Now I was born in August of 2019. I had a free birth, which you probably don't agree with, and that's fine. I don't need you to agree with how I choose to live my life. Anyway, so I had a free birth. It was just me, Dogon, and Niall at home. I prepared immensely for that free birth. I wasn't negligent. I took courses. I did a lot of preparation work for that. We had medicines. trust me, I went to the whole nine. That was the birth I wanted, especially after being trafficked in the mental health system in that county. I knew my agency in a birthing situation would be below zero, right? I would have negative chances to advocate for myself in that setting, or my son, in him being half black. The racism in Los Angeles is insane, especially systemically. Okay, so it was the safer option to give birth at home, and he was fine. Thank God, we were very protected and held in that. But I did prepare the fuck out of that free birth. Okay, so anyway. I became a mom after that. The marriage was completely over. I knew the marriage was over during the pregnancy, but I stayed until after, right? So Niall and I left Los Angeles in right before quarantine of March of 2020. I hooked up. I got a trailer hitch installed on my car, got a U-Haul, and we left. I brought my animals. I had a dog and 2 cats at the time, and Niall was still breastfeeding. So it took us about like 12 hours. It should have only taken like 8, 9 maybe, but it took a very long time because we had to stop frequently to breastfeed. Niall was about 8 or 9 months at that time. And we moved into a house with 2 other women. Again, this was right before quarantine. And they were both moms with sons who were trying to be single moms. But it got weird with the quarantine. They both went back with their baby daddies. We were not comfortable there. So I bought an RV. And then we ended up on a commune that was even worse than that first housing situation. And then we stayed there for a few months, and then we moved to Cottonwood in an RV park. And then after taking the dogs, well, our other dog died, but then we got another dog. So taking the dogs to the dog park every day, not being able to have like a shade covering up at my spot in the RV park, like really strict, dumb rules. I was like, I can't do this. And so I bought a plot of land up here. We moved off grid for 3 months in the end of 2020, from October to December 2022. And then we moved into this house in January of 2023. And we've been here ever since. Everything on my land has been stolen. I did have 2 RVs and a few years worth of preparation work for a homestead. That's all gone. I funded other people's dreams. I'm not that mad about it because it's not what I really wanted. It was what I needed at the time. There's a lot of trauma in those vehicles. One of them was a friend of ours, and it was, again, we were both in survival mode. They got evicted from the RV park, and they had their RV in storage, so I was like, let me buy it. And they were like, yeah, we're not going to use it. So that's how I came across 2 RVs. So anyway, those have been stolen. I just found that out in January, so we're caught up to now. The past few years since we've been here, I established A Future for All, my LLC, in September of 2023, I think. Yep. And then I started doing monitoring spirit. I started doing these art courses, or this open art space, in October of 2023, and I was using the community building for that. We did that up until I think last year. My car battery died, and I was kind of pushed out. So, and then from January until June, July. Well, honestly, it was October. From January to October, I wasn't doing anything, except I got an ambulance that I turned into an art studio. I think art helped heal me. Like, every time I was locked up, I did a ton of art. It helped me to create, it helped to really transmute the energy, the trauma. It didn't matter what I was creating. As long as I was creating something, it helped me. And so that's why I do the art programs that I do. So now I have CREATE. It's a acronym for, so it's like the Future for All is the umbrella, and then all of the other projects, the Home Free Homestead. I wanted that land to turn into a single mother refuge. Under this administration and current government, it's a very hard time to do any of that. So I'm just kind of focused on me right now. I'm focused on getting passive income in this season of my life. We've had to navigate a lot. We've been through a lot. Yeah. I don't know what else I'm leaving out. So anyway, the ambulance. I just launched a shop this year called the Eclectic Selection Shop. So I used my tax money this year to invest in myself because the past few years I've built this home. I've looked out for my babe, my son. We have a yard full of toys and swings and trampoline. We have a whole bunch of shit in our yard because autism, we don't go out really. We don't like having, I don't like having to mask. I don't like having to like police Niall's behavior. And so I just wanted to make sure that our home has everything that we need to feel comfortable and feel like we're getting, good exposure to stuff. And I've done that. I've done a really great job. I did lose the things that I'm most mad about losing in the RV were I just realized like I made a placenta print. I don't have that. My book collection, and I had this raisin brand cereal box that had like my dad's like funeral stuff in it, and I also had my dog's cremains. Like those are and baby daddy's dad's cassette collection. Yes, I had an RV with a cassette player. So anyway, like surround sound. So those are the things that I wish, there was a lot more valuable stuff, but those are the sentimental things that suck that I can't get back, but it's okay. It's a Macklemore song. You cannot pack up a U-Haul and take it with you when you're gone. So eventually that shit was gonna get lost or stolen or thrown away, right? Probably not. I take really good care of my stuff, but it's okay. I have to tell myself that I can't get stuck on that. So, like I said, I just found that information out a few months ago. I was being called to go to our land to check on it. I hadn't been there in a couple years. That's my bad. I know there's a bunch of tweakers out there, but when we were living out there, my car had so many issues. It was so traumatizing. And like the PTSD was just not worth it to go out there for what? Like, we're fine in town. So we've rebuilt everything here. I do have plans coming up, but I wanted to do this overview. So right now, I was teaching at the college, like freelancing, for the past couple years, but I did just resign from that. It's too much work. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. And also, I'm being disrespected. So we do have kids college this year, and then this is my last year. I already told them it's fine. So I disassociate a lot during the summer. So summer's coming up. I hate it. It's too hot. My car sucks in the summer. My car is like super moody in the heat. It does a bunch of like really weird stuff. I'm grateful for my car. I did buy it in the hood in LA, and I almost actually ended up in a brothel. Yeah. The guy I bought my car from, he like knew I was trying to leave Dogon, and he's like, well, I've got a house for women. I'm like, I'm good. I'm trying to get out of town. It was very close. I was almost prostituted out. Fuck. I didn't realize how close it was either. That was crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I bought that car there, and it's been I didn't have a car when I was born, so I got that when I was like 2 months. So I'm making it work. It's fine. I just have to deal with the heat. But the reason I'm resigning is I don't want to deal with it, so we're just gonna stay home, right? So yeah, I have the Future for All, Home Free Homestead, CREATE. Did I ever tell you what CREATE stands for? It stands for Community Resiliency, Exploring Arts Through Experience. And it is all about open art space. Again, I truly believe that art is a great bridge culturally, communally, and it's a great modality for healing, and also just staying like true to who you are, like keeping that innocence. I think art is the way that we do that. I'm currently doing a like month thing with the Savage Studio at the Teen Center. We are creating a big world piece, art piece using all recycled materials. And we are going to be displaying that. We've got 4 more sessions. We are going to be displaying it at the market coming up at the end of the month. I just started the market. Well, she just started the market. The friend that I'm talking about the Vatican with. But anyway, um, so I'm trying to do more. I'm also going to be really focusing on my own businesses. I'm really trying to focus on passive income, which is why I have the Patreon. Hey, what's up? My YouTube channel has become my focus. I just left social media like a week ago, like TikTok and Instagram, and it feels really liberating. It's been a little adjustment like with my muscle memory because I'm so like used to getting on TikTok. So I have been coloring a lot in my paint by color or paint by number app. I've also been listening to tarot readers. I was able to find most of my tarot readers from TikTok on YouTube, and I've been doing Pinterest work, which is great for like envisioning what I want. So I'm turning the back of my car into a tarot business. I'm really excited about the markets. I did really well at the market last year or last month. So I'm focusing on that. I don't know if I ever finished telling you about my. I invested in materials to create like own the means of production for my own creation. So printer, laminator, Cricut, a heat press machine, a laser engraver. I got a screen press or screen printing setup. Um, plus the ambulance and having all of my using the community as an excuse to keep all of my supplies organized. I don't mind sharing my stuff. I didn't buy all that stuff with the intention of just me using it by any means. I've been facilitating art groups, whether it was at the college or just community groups for the past few years here. They're not very well, like the community. I live in a very MAGA Mormon community. So have been blacklisted. I'm a witch. I'm a pagan. And so I don't know. I know who I am. I don't need approval from anyone, but, I have a small group of mommy friends, finally, and other support. But other than that, it hasn't been like, I'm like, every time I set it up, and I haven't even been doing it the past few months because I hurt my back or my shoulder, and I just kind of wore myself out with like our initial shop setup. So I'm glad to have the market. I'm glad to have a different space to vend at while I'm getting things together. Again, I can't really vend with my car because it overheating shit. So yeah, we're just chilling right now. I mean, if this is what you call chilling. I've been really working on making ebooks, getting things on the internet. I really have a lot of work to do with my Mayhem Market. I do have an Etsy, but I'm trying to cancel it. I had to get a new debit card, so I'm trying to let the shop go into default. I don't want an Etsy. I definitely don't want to keep paying for it. I've tried to cancel it so many fucking times, and they haven't. So I'm happy to be over here on Patreon. I'm happy to be on YouTube. If you see this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. It's very frustrating to have my numbers be so stagnant. I have a new duck friend outside. I take care of the alley cats, and I have a duck friend. We just gave Ducky a coop today. Niall and I homeschool my son, so I've got a lot going on, but I wanted to give an overview of why I work from the framework that I work from. I hope that helps. I've been through some stupid shit at the hands of others, and I'm in this season of my life from here on out where I have all the power now. I'm not allowing others to have that power over me. Well, I might not be quite ready. I don't have full financial freedom yet, but that's definitely what I'm working towards. I want to be able to be self-sufficient and also have enough to share with others. I think that some of the most incredible things, like the most daunting realizations I've had over the past few years, is how competitive motherhood is when it comes to women trying to support women. When there are men who are centered in that, it is a completely competitive space. I've been celibate for 7 years since I was pregnant, since I found out about everything. My intuition knew before that, but anyway, I've been celibate since about 4 months, 3 months pregnant. and I am using all of that life force energy into creations. I know that my integrity and my hope for a better world are very unique. There are under 50 people who went through that master's program, and it was definitely not the same program after our cohort had, like, the me and the first two, like the cohort right before us, I think had the best, like, people come out of the projects. I'm not talking about like housing projects. I think that we were the ones who were able to conceptualize and make an impact most. The cohorts after us, the program changed. They changed the name. The school got weird about funding it. I don't think the program exists anymore. So yeah, I think there's maybe even less than like 30 of us, maybe 35 of us who went through that program. So I know that my experience, the way that our professors hooked us up in certain networking spaces, was unheard of in a lot of different, like, education. The thing about that master's program was that I used my education to take down the system, whereas in most education settings or academic settings, it is a, like, rite of passage into the system. A lawyer, doctor, whatever. You have to go to a certain point and then be, like, grandfathered into these programs. It's like a secret society type thing. This was completely different. It was being on the inside and using that knowledge from the inside to take down the outs, right? So yeah. So that is who I am. That is what I'm about. That is the past 20 years or so of my life. I haven't lost who I am, regardless of the trauma. And I've gone into that way more depth, like that whole story. Also, the free birth. I've told all of those stories on my StoryTime. Oh, maybe I should put my StoryTime over on Patreon. That'd probably be a good idea. But I wanted to share who I am and why I am this way. I truly believe that I am here to support and uplift humanity. And it was up to me to decipher what that meant for me, what that looked like. And I think I'm still, I'm walking in my purpose. But I know that it's meant to be larger, especially at these times when things are so imbalanced, or evil is really got us in a chokehold, right? These systems, the way we're living, the atrocities, the knowing, the access to information, and the inability to do anything about that is debilitating. It's debilitating to our soul. And so I know that the path that I've walked has made it abundantly clear that it only takes one person. And I already mentioned that. It only takes one person to give a fuck, to encourage another, and the ripple effect is absolutely monumental. When you truly give people the space to be who they want to be or follow what they want to do, because it's coming from a heart-led space, not a space of obligation or desperation, right? It is life-changing. So until I make enough money to fund us all to do our dreams, I appreciate you being here. Please support this work. Please help us grow. Please share this with people. Either this story time or any of my content. My YouTube has over 4,000 videos. I like to do a lot of shorts because I think our attention span has gotten lower. So I like to do a lot of impactful stuff. It doesn't have to be too long. But I truly believe in raising the vibration and frequency of the planet. I have ducks and cats living together. Well, a duck and a fuck ton of cats. I think that I truly believe that saying that Gandhi said, to be the change you wish to see in the world. I have met a lot of hippies. I've met a lot of people who have come before me, um, both in healing fields and activism fields, in community-led spaces, grassroots stuff, academic, and it's reminded me that there are so many people who want to do better, who are putting in the work to help others to understand why this world is the way it is, and that we can actually do something about it. So please don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. We have the power. It's just about a matter of navigating that. And I hope that my story helps you realize that it's not easy. But that doesn't mean it's not worth it, right? When we choose to stand in our power, when we choose to heal instead of, hurting others the same way we've been hurt, we always have a choice. We can do one of two things. We can choose to help others, or dedicate ourselves to like making sure no one has to go through what we went through, or we can make sure that everyone that we meet and comes across our path has to go through what we went through, right? It's pretty basic. So I chose the latter. I put all of this out here to support, so that people don't have to go through what I went through, because it sucked. Again, I've got a Gumroad, I've got a Mayhem Market. Please don't use my Etsy. Fuck Etsy. And if you're local, if you're in the northern Arizona area, I will be at markets. Yeah, you can schedule readings with me, or healing sessions, whatever you feel called to. If you want to do a healing session, we have to have a consult first, just to make sure our energies align. And what I have to offer is good for you, right? So yeah, thanks for being here. This felt good. I'm really happy to share who I am and why I am the way I am. So have a good one.